Stephanie with Steffy Jewels, and in this video I'm going to explain what resin is, also sometimes referred to as epoxy resin, and how to use it. Now basically, resin is a liquid that when mixed with a hardener, a chemical reaction is set in motion, and after a period of time, normally about 24 hours, it will cure, aka hardener. Now, depending on what brand you're using, I have two types of brands right here. Most resin is usually a 1-to-1 mixing ratio, which means you take 1 part resin, which is right here and it says on top, and you mix it with 1 part hardener in an actual silicone type cup. Now, you can see I have some silicone type cups here as well. These are just cupcake liners that if you just got a basic cupcake liner, you can mix 1 part of resin inside 1 part of hardener by using any one of these type of stirrers, whether it's a toothpick here, a popsicle, or any one of these other stirrers, just to kind of mix the chemical together so that way when it's time to cure it, it will be mixed. Also, some other brands is also known as a ratio of 2-to-1 or 1-to-2, however you want to look at it, which means you take 1 part resin and you mix with 2 parts of hardener. Now, the reason why I'm showing 2 brands here, because even though they're both known as resin or sometimes referred to, like I said, as epoxy resin, they are actually a little bit different in how you mix it. For example, this right here is just called art resin, and I'll put links down below for everything you see up here that I can, because I'm also part of the Amazon Associate Program. So anytime you purchase anything, I do get a small commission, which I humbly accept and graciously will love for y'all to check that out. But with art resin, as the name says right here, art resin, this is usually what is known where people will make a mixture and they'll pour it on their art. And the reason why this one works very well, because it's a clear casting, meaning that when you pour it on anything, it shows it crystal clear. Whereas some of the resin, like this one right here, even though you still get that clear like film over it, if you get any type of piece that's exposed to sun, your piece will actually start to yellow. So I started using art resin over everything for jewelry making tools, and I'm going to show you some examples of what I have made. These are some of the things that I actually made using the art resin. Basically, you just need a mold, and I have a heart-shaped mold for these. And this one right here, just a basic cupcake liner that I do right here, where I just kind of poured it. And you can put all kinds of stuff inside your resin. Right now there's stickers and glitter in it. Same with this one right here. I actually have some stickers and glitter as well. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when I get ready to start mixing one of these resins. But with the art resin, like I said, it is crystal clear. So if you make any type of pieces, whether it's artwork or in my case, any type of jewelry, if it's exposed to sun, the UV light will not affect it. So that means your piece that's get hardened, because this is basically hard glass. So that's kind of what resin turns into. It turns into like a hard glass light. So you can drop this, it will not crack, it will not break. But over time, if you have this in the sun, it could be exposed and start to turn yellow. Now, I really like art resin. This is why you see a lot of big bottles here, because I use this very much. But when I first started with resin, I actually used this one. This is Easy Cast resin, and you can get this from any type of craft store such as Hobby Lobby, Michael's, Joann. They sell these at any type of craft store, or you can go online. Whereas art resin, you have to purchase this online. This is not sold in any stores that I'm aware of. However, if you do have a craft store, I'm not sorry, a craft store, but an art supply store, you might find this here, because these are more catered to artists, and that's why on the picture of the actual bottle, you see like a canvas of someone actually painting. Let me see if I can get that little unblurry. You see like a canvas art, because a lot of artists will paint something, and if you're selling any type of paint, you don't want your actual artwork to be sitting in someone's house, and depending on where their house sits, if the sun shines through there, it might start turning that painting yellow. So they use the art resin a lot more than they use regular resin. But when it comes to mixing resin, if you have not seen my first video on UV resin, then there's a card right above that you can click right there to see that, because this right here is a little bit different than the UV resin, meaning that with UV, you just pour straight out the bottle and stick under light, whereas this one, you have to mix the two together. If you just pour one without the other, nothing's going to happen to it. It's going to basically just sit there as a very liquid form. So you have to have two parts here to mix together. Now, like I said, there's a lot of resin out there on the market. You know, you can even go to hardware store because they have that as well, because a lot of homemakers or DIYers use resin to kind of coat tabletops or any type of industrial type project. So just kind of get out there and check and see what resin is out there. But if you're just starting out, then just check out, you know, your local craft store and you can get one of these. I think another brand out there is called Amazing Cast that I saw, but starting out, yeah, just try any local one here and then just start expanding and see what resin works better for you. So to get started with mixing, you need a couple supplies. First, you need your resin of your choice. You need any type of silicone mold, and the reason why you want silicone is because once the resin cures, it's easier to peel off. So this is a silicone mold that you can also purchase online, as well as any type of silicone cups. Now these are, like I said, cupcake liners that are silicone, so they make perfect ways to either mix your resin in, or like I said, to make stuff like this. So I actually had one of these and I made this as keychains, which these will be available on steffyjewels.com if you'd like to purchase them. You could also get one with shapes. I saw this one here and I saw the star shape on the back of it, and I was like, okay, that'd be kind of cute to try to see if I can make some type of cute little chain with that one. Same with this one that has a heart shape on it, and then this one is a flower one. So I haven't tried these ones yet, but in some future videos I will make some pieces out of these using these molds right here. So let me move some stuff around just to kind of get you started here. Oh, one more thing too you need to know. Let me go back to the supplies. Baby wipes. Always keep some baby wipes around with you because resin is sticky. And tip number one, when working with resin, you do want to wear gloves as well as a mask, your mask of choice, just something to kind of stop the fumes, because there is a slight fume when you are working with resin. So you need to be working in a well ventilated area when dealing with resin as well. So always make sure you have your gloves out as well. You need some type of stirrers. Like I said, I basically use a popsicle stick, or I use a toothpick, and usually the toothpick is to pop the bubbles. And the reason why I said bubbles, because when you mix the resin, it actually will form little micro bubbles in it that, you know, like the gases and the chemical, it rises up. So you need this to pop it, or that is why I had these two options here. Flame will also help pop it because you just basically need heat to pop it. You can use a mini torch, or you can just take a straw and just blow on top of it as well. Now I have these right here. Even this is Casting Craft resin dye, and as the bottle says right here, I think you can see it. Let's see if I can get that. It says for epoxy resin or polyester. Sorry, I can't get that right there. For polyester or resin or epoxy resin, meaning that only these dyes is only can be placed in, can be mixed with this type of resin. Meaning you can't use it in anything else. You might can use it in UV resin. I haven't tried it, but maybe I'll make a video on experiment with what can you stick in UV resin. Because just because this is epoxy doesn't mean you can't do it in UV. So we'll try that. Oh, also another thing she can stick in dry resin, as you saw in pictures, you can do glitter, powder of any type, as well as, like I said, these are stickers. So these are stickers that you see right here, and there's a lot of little flakes or little glitter flakes right here behind it. Let's see if you can see that. And like, so you can really see there's a lot closer up if you go to my website, steffyjewels.com, because they are out there. But yeah, these are little stickers and actual glitter. And for stickers, if you want to use in resin, make sure they have a PVC, or they say PVC on the sticker, because I made another sticker or another piece like that, which is what these are right here. And these are just basic stickers that I noticed that it kind of look a little wet because it's paper, and paper will get wet with resin because you're basically putting in something into liquid. So you have to seal the actual paper. And the way to seal that is using an actual material, which is called Mod Podge. So if you want to start playing with stuff inside this actual resin, you have to seal them. But once again, I will show another video on how to do that. This is basically just how to use resin and what actually epoxy resin, or known as resin, how you do it. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing you need to have is your resin, this I got right here. you need to have some silicone cups or mixing cups. I actually use these cups right here, but you can use, like say, one of these. A lot of folks do use this right here for mixing cup, but you really want one that has the actual measurements on it. I'm not sure you can see that here. See if I can. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get this so you can see this. Let's see. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like little lines here that shows the measurements of the actual piece. So I like to use these cups over just these right here. Now if I'm mixing like pigments or glitter inside something, then these are great to be used. But if I need to actually get measurements, you need to get a cup that has some type of measurement. So you can use medicine cups, or like I like using these because they are washable, the silicone. So once the resin stick to it, and actually I have one right there. You see how shiny it is? So once it actually dries, this actually peels right off. So that's why I like using the silicone over everything. You can just wash this off. Now, tip number 2, to clean anything like this out of silicone, use a soap dishwasher. That you use a soap powder for your washing dishes, but make sure it has a degreaser on it because it actually helps clean your cups out a little bit better. Because even though it sticks, I mean, you know, you can peel these off. It's kind of hard to peel it one by one, but if you just go ahead and wash it, it works. So I think I have a cleaner cup because I have 4. Yes, I do have one that's a little bit cleaner. So this one's a little bit cleaner. So now I'm gonna go ahead and mix these 2 up. Now, with this particular brand, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning I pour one of these into one here, and then you just mix it for about, I think the directions said 3 minutes to mix it. Whereas this one right here is a 1-to-1 ratio, but you gotta mix it twice, meaning once you pour it in here once and mix it for the time it said, which I think this also is 3 minutes, then you gotta pour it into another cup and mix it again for another 1 minute. So always pay attention to, the type of brand you're using. Like I said, I do suggest if you're a beginner to get a 1-to-1 ratio mixing resin and make sure that it's only mixing once. I mean, it's okay if you want to mix it twice, you know, like this direction said, because you're supposed to. But if you're just starting out and don't want to do that, mix once and then put in another cup and mix it again. Find one that just says 1-to-1, mix it at one time in the cup. So let me go ahead and get this started. Oh, first thing first, safety. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my gloves on. Now, one thing I want to mention too about resin, aka epoxy, is that there is a small working time window to use this. Meaning, as soon as you put this in and mix it, make sure you have your molds or your projects ready to go, because it will start to harden as soon as you put them 2 together, start mixing it. It'll start to get harder and thicken. Whereas if you saw the video for UV resin actually, you can let it sit out there for a while and it won't really thicken too hard. But this one right here, the window, depending on your brand, is kind of slow. Like this one right here is 45 minutes. So I have 45 minutes from the time I pour this into my cup to the time I get it into my mold before it starts to thicken up on me. And I think this one right here is, I want to say, I think less than that, but I'm not sure. I'll put that information on the screen here because I haven't used this in a while, as you can see. I haven't used it. Oh, and one thing, if you haven't noticed, that the color of the resin, now normally it should be both clear, and it's okay if you start seeing your hardener turn a little color. From what I have learned, was this did the same thing. It's supposed to be crystal clear, but there is a slight tint in it. Once you open up this top, oxygen will get in here and it will cause a slight turn on your resin, and that's okay. I mean, it's not going to really hurt anything. Sometimes you won't even see it. Like, I don't think you even see any of that color on here, you know, when I use this resin. So especially if you're using type of paint or any type of other material to add in the resin, you won't even see it. So just kind of be careful when you are using resin, that if you want it to be crystal clear, then you want to make sure that your hardener is a little clear. But from when I was mixing it up, you really don't see the yellow. It actually looks a little clear anyway. But that's just another little tip right there, another tip for you. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my mask on because this is very strong. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open up my top here for this one. And one thing you want also to have on hand is the paper towel, because like I said, it is sticky. I do have my baby wipes, but sometimes you just want to use the actual paper towel. Now, when doing resin, make sure you have exactly what you want in mind as for projects. So, actually, I'm going to go ahead and take this mask off so y'all can hear me. But if you're at home, please make sure you have a mask on, because you do not want to inhale any of these fumes. I haven't had any reaction to it when I was actually using the resin, but some may, so just a word of caution. If you have a very low tolerance of smell, please wear a mask. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this, and since I'm doing just a small project, this goes from 20 up to 100. And if you can't see the lines, you can get like a little Sharpie here and kind of mark the outside of it, so that way you can kind of see where you're pouring at. So I'm just gonna start pouring this in here. And it doesn't matter if you use the resin first or if you use the actual hardener. Basically, you just need one part of each. So I pour one part here, put the top back on, and then I'm gonna pour another part of the hardener. Now, as you can see on the screen right now, this is another tip right here. You want your resin to be fairly room temperature. So you can even leave it out for a little bit, you know, because that will actually help reduce some of the bubbles. But you can also pour it in, or I'm sorry, place it in a tub of or a bucket of warm water, and just let it sit for about 5 minutes so it can warm up a little bit. That way, it kind of reduces the bubbles that you'll get once you pour it. So here's my hardener. I'm going to pour it on top of this one right here. And I'm just going up to the next line that's up there. So each hash line on there, so it has like a hash line 20, hash line 40, and so forth up to 100. You just kind of want to go like one mark up, another mark up to kind of make it equal parts. And all you would do is you'll take your stirring utensil, whatever it is, and you kind of want to stir it a little slow right here. You want to make sure you scrape the bottom as well as the sides here. So, and one thing I like to use is I like to use my timer. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this up, and let me show you a little if you can see this. You're going to see little lines or little stringy right there. You want to make sure that it's evenly mixed. You want to get rid of all the little stringy mixtures right there. So I'm going to mix this for about 3 minutes like the direction says, and then I'm going to come back and let you see what's next. So it's been about 5. I actually forgot to tell you this before I got the video, but with any type of resin, try to let it sit between 3 to 5 minutes to give time for the bubbles to rise to the top. I'm trying to see if I can get here. I don't think you can see this, but there's like little bitty bubbles in here. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer to it. Yeah, you probably can't see that, but there are little tiny micro bubbles in there from when I was actually stirring. Hey guys, sorry about that. So apparently my actual camera just died. I mean, the battery just died. I thought that was fully charged, but the show must go on. So as I was saying with the glitter, this is just basic craft glitter you can find from any glitter store. And my ceiling fan finally did turn off, so I'm just going to get just a very little bit. Oh, and one thing I want to show you right here is that you can see that the bubbles are actually starting to rise up right now. So this is a perfect time to get your flame here. And actually, I don't know if you can see it. I'm getting as close as I can without sticking it in there. I'm not sure you saw the white bubbles. It popped on me. So, and it just, like I said, you just need the heat to kind of, you know, pop. And you want to get as close as you can without actually sticking it in there. Or, like I said, you can actually use this straw here. And let me close that back up. Ugh, yeah, that's the thing about fine glitter. It is very fine. So let me try to blow some of this out. You know what I'm saying? You need hot air to kind of blow it. So that it might be starting to thicken up a little bit, because it's been about 45 minutes, or maybe not even close to it, but somewhat close. But like I said, the warmer it is, even though it's 45-minute working time, it will actually start thickening up a lot faster if it's warm in the area you're at. So let me go ahead and get this glitter, and I'm just gonna get like a toothpick of it. So here's a toothpick, because you don't need much, and just stick it in there. So, and there's that right there. So yeah, see, in this case, like I said, this should pretty much be dropping to the bottom of it. But I think, like I said, I'm in a very warm area in my apartment, and it's very hot, so it is a little bit thick, so this glitter will not actually sink to the bottom. Another tip that I should mention too, it's best to work with resin in a warm environment. I have not tried doing this when it was colder. I currently live in Texas, so we don't really get cold, or we don't even get a winter season here. We get basically 2 seasons, hot or hotter. So we don't really see like the cold weathers here. So, but it's still, you know, your working temperature should be, I think it says on the bottom about 72 degrees or somewhere in the 70s, but anything below that, you can still use resin, but it'll take longer to cure. So I would have to use resin in the summertime, and then I also do clay as well. So I'll use my clay in the actual winter time because you need it to be somewhat cool for clay, because clay gets warm when you actually start rolling up and touching it. And so yeah, so I have like 2 seasons, season for resin and a season for clay work. So those are all stuff I'm gonna put on. I'm gonna leave that one clear so you can see the difference between it. But I'm gonna let this cure, and most resin, I think, if not all, needs about 24 hours to completely cure, meaning for this to be hardened completely. Now, to get a full cure, you need 72 hours, which is basically about 3 days. So I'm gonna let some of these sit for 24 hours, and then I'm gonna let some of them sit for 3 days, and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna demold them so you can see exactly what this looks like. So I'll be back after these cure. So guys, I actually let this sit for 3 days just to make sure it's fully cured, aka hardened. And one thing I forgot to mention before I actually waited for this to cure is you want to have some type of a top to go over your resin, because depending on where you live at, you might have particles flying around your air. Like me, I have a dog, so I do have some dog hair that floats around in the air. And no matter how many times I vacuum, the hair is not going away. You know, I have a big old mix, so yes, I can make probably 15 dogs in this apartment. But yeah, you want to have something to cover up your resin so that way nothing kind of flies into your resin. So this is just a basic TV tray that I got from IKEA. You know, it's one of those trays you can put food on if you eat on it. But just any type of thing to cover it, any lid or anything like that. I like the clear, that way I can kind of look through here. I don't know if you can see that, but I can kind of see my pieces to see exactly what's going on. But yes, you do want to cover up any type of resin work, you know, at least for the first 24 hours, just to make sure nothing gets into it. So here is actually what it looks like when everything is finally cured. So I'm trying to get as close as I can so you can kind of see that. So this is the one that has the glitter, and yes, some of the glitter actually did fall to the bottom of it. Sorry, I'm trying to get so you can see it. So some of it did go in there. So let's go ahead and unmold these bad boys so you can kind of see what happens. So I'm going to start with the 2 color ones. This is the one that was UV resin. I mean, I'm sorry, not UV resin. This is one for epoxy resin that I use. That's made for that. So that's that one right here. And right there. So here is the front of them. And then that's the back of it. And like I said, it is fairly hard in cure, which means I can pretty much twist this. And sometimes with color, that's why I like to make it sit for about 3 days, because even though you're using very little drops of color in your resin, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to cure anything when you start adding any type of material within your resin. So that's 2 pieces right there that we use the color. So now let's do the one where I add the little big chunks of glitter. And that's that piece right here. See, let me make that. It sparkles. Woo! So that's the front. And then that's the back. And once again, if I try to twist this, it's like a brick. Same with these right here. The thing about resin, it goes from liquid to almost like glass-like finish. So there's that one. And then here's the one with the glitter coming out. So there is my glitter. Right there, the front of the glitter. And then that's the back of it. And depending on what kind of look you want, you might want the glitter to kind of look like it's floating in there. But like I mentioned earlier in the video, that if you kind of want the glitter to sit on top, then let your resin kind of thicken up for about, maybe I say about 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours, where when you put the toothpick in it, you start seeing the actual resin kind of like stick out and have a little lip to it. But I will show that in other videos when I start making other projects. so you can see what I'm talking about. And last but not least is clear. Now, yeah, you can kind of see there's a little bit of blue in it. It's because, you know, I could have just spilled it a little bit, but just kind of want to give you an idea what it looks like just if you just use basic. And yeah, this one right here, you can probably see the bubbles on it. As you can see that, there you go, little bubbles in it. It's because I did not get the bubbles out to pop out, but it still kind of gives you a nice look, another texture look. So, I mean, yeah, it depends what you want to do with your resin. I mean, yeah, I mean, I would have really make sure that this resin was a little bit warmed up, you know, by putting it in some warm water for about 5 minutes, or like make sure I stir the actual mixture a little bit slower and then spend more time popping the bubbles out. But that's not a bad looking effect, you know, it looks very grainy. So, but there you have it. That is how you will actually cure or work with epoxy resin and exactly how it works. So basically, for a recap, epoxy resin, or known as two-part resin or just regular resin, is a liquid mixture that when you add with a hardener, it actually produces a mixture to help it cure together. So this is a little bit different than if you were trying to use UV resin when it comes out the bottle. And like I said, you can check out that video in the cards above, or I'll leave a link down below in the description. And if you found this video very helpful or enlightening, please hit that like button. You hit that subscribe, you hit that bell, share it, tell your friends about it, you know, so that way you can be notified on more videos like this in the future. Once again, this is your girl Stephanie with Steffy Jewels, and as always, you never know what treasures you'll find here at Steffy Jewels. I hope to see you soon. Bye.